warm welcome. You're watching The Burning Question with me, Shavan. Ladies and gentlemen, the tax department carried out what they say survey action on the BBC. Their offices in Delhi and Mumbai where the survey action was carried out. In fact, the income tax department says that notices were actually issued to the BBC a couple of months ago. And they believe that there are certain transactions that have taken place between the parent company and its subsidiaries, and there are certain discrepancies. Important to point out here is that they are looking at the transfer pricing that has taken place where there are certain irregularities. Sources have also indicated that these irregularities have been going on for quite some time. Many are now asking this question as to why exactly has the income tax department suddenly woken up? Why is it that this BBC is coming under the scanner of the income tax department? As the opposition alleges, it is because what they say, the BBC has exposed the ruling dispensation by the 2-year investigative documentary that was put out. Is that the case? Tonight on The Burning Question, we bring out the truth behind the survey action and whether at all this is some sort of a revenge or this is part of a routine procedure. Take a look at this report which brings you up to speed on the recent developments that have taken place. But before that, let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Tax Department surveys BBC offices in Delhi and Mumbai. As BBC faces income tax department heat, Vadra Congress and the TMC spare no moment to come to BBC's defence. Big controversy as Hanuman logo on HAL's fighter trainer aircraft removed. Kotak drops Tanmay Bhatt after problematic tweets from the past surfaces. All action from the Aero India 2023 live on Republic. World watches as Atmanirbhar Bharat takes off.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार काउंटिंग के दिन आप देख लीजिएगा 12 बजे के पहले क्योंकि यहाँ कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसियाँ छोटी हैं 12 बजे के पहले पूर्ण बहुमत से भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार बन जाएगी.
Home Minister reiterates confidence ahead of the 2024 polls, says the BJP has no competition. Well, in fact, we're getting in some more breaking news, exclusive details of the survey action on the BBC in Delhi and Mumbai. In fact, top sources now indicating notices have been sent earlier to the company to explain certain transfer pricing related payments. Income tax department suspects tax evasion by claiming services and costs that were not incurred or suspected to be bogus in nature to save on the taxes. These evasion runs into a few crores. In fact, documents related to the company, pen drive and laptops have now been seized. That's the latest that we are picking up right now with regards to the survey action by the Income Tax Department of the offices of the BBC in the national capital as well as in Mumbai. We'll also try and go across to my colleague Niranjan Narayanswamy, who's joining us from the Mumbai newsroom, getting us more details. Niranjan, it basically makes it very clear. The opposition party says that this was a reactionary move made by the government after the documentary came up. But it turns out that there is no link between the documentary and the fact that the Income Tax Department had much earlier begun their investigation into the case. It could be a few months ago that the notices were already issued to the BBC.
It appears, Shravan, that it's not just now or a matter of few months. It appears that BBC has been under scanner for several years. even under the Congress regime at some points. But coming back to today's surveys that are being conducted at the BBC offices in Delhi and Mumbai, specifically going through the details that we have at hand from the Income Tax Department surveys, what we understand is that BBC has been non-compliant under transfer policy rules, persistent and deliberately violative of transfer pricing norms, deliberately diverted significant amount of profits, has not followed arm's length arrangements in the case of allocation of funds. And going to the exclusive details, now notices have been sent earlier as well for them to explain certain transfer pricing related payments, and this evasion runs into several crores, and prima facie discrepancies in transactions between parent company and place of effective management in India. Basically, subsidiaries of parent companies, a maze of companies perhaps that is now being looked at. Back to you for now, Shawan.
Well, thank you very much, Niranjan, for getting us the latest details. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, the opposition party has been trading their guns at the government, saying that this is nothing but yet another attempt made by the government to try and muzzle the voice of the media. Is that really the case? We started with some breaking news coming in with regards to that the BBC has been under the scanner for several months put together. We'll get into the details of what exactly is the nature of the case that is being investigated by the Income Tax Department. But the fact of the matter is that not just India, there are several countries who have once time and again raised questions about what they believe biased reporting by the British Broadcasting Corporation, which once again the BBC says is at the master of propaganda. Take a look at this report and then we start the burning question.
Tax Department launched a survey at BBC offices this morning.
The Indian agencies are asking and seeking a reply as we speak on the 5th and the 6th floor of this Hindustan Times building situated at Kasturba Gandhi Marg, because they were not satisfied by the initial answer of the BBC World Service Corporate Office. This is what is happening as we speak, that the survey is on. This has nothing to do with the editorial staff. This has nothing to do with any controversial documentary.
From Delhi to Mumbai, BBC offices were surveyed.
IT officials has been conducting survey at a BBC office in Delhi and Mumbai, and we have been reporting right outside the Mumbai office in Kalina, where the IT Mumbai unit has roped in another department and the matter pertains to international taxation, and in Delhi where the international wing of the IT department is carrying out searches.
These are allegations of tax irregularities.
This is essentially round one of the survey operations being carried out, and if at all the IT department finds something dubious in terms of the financial transactions, in terms of suspected tax evasion on part of the BBC, it's only then that round two would take place, which would probably be called the raids or searches, so as to say. But for now, this is a regular survey operation being carried out for over 10 hours now at the BBC office here in Mumbai as well as in the national capital.
But from Vadra Congress,
यहाँ हम जेपीसी की मांग कर रहे हैं अडानी के मामले में, और वहाँ सरकार बीबीसी के पीछे पड़ी हुई है. विनाशकाले विपरीत बुद्धि.
to Mehbooba Mufti's party,
आज जो है अनअलानी इमरजेंसी देश में लगी हुई है, अनडिक्लेयर्ड इमरजेंसी है. बात करने पे भी रोक है, अपने विचार पेश करने पर भी रोक है. अगर आप किसी की पॉलिसी को, अगर आपको लगता है कि इसकी पॉलिसी ठीक नहीं, अगर आप उसके खिलाफ बात करते हैं तो उसको भी बात करने की आज़ादी जो है वो रोकी जाती है, तरह तरह के हथकंडे अपना के.
The lobby was quick to come out in support of BBC, and they got it back from the ruling BJP.
ये कहना आज गलत नहीं होगा. बीबीसी के अगर कृत्य देखें तो ये पूरे विश्व की सबसे भ्रष्ट बकवास कॉरपोरेशन हो गई. और दुख की बात यह है कि बीबीसी का प्रोपेगेंडा और कांग्रेस का एजेंडा एक साथ मेल खाता है. और कांग्रेस पार्टी को सबसे पहले तो ये याद करना चाहिए किस तरह से देश की प्रधानमंत्री श्रीमती इंदिरा गांधी जी ने खुद बीबीसी पे बैन लगाया।
As lobby's paranoia becomes evident, the burning question is, what's really vindictive in a tax evasive investigation? Bureau Report, Republic TV.
Joining us with the burning question tonight are Charu Pragya, spokesperson of the BJP, Manish Baryar, political analyst, Zeba Yasmin, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, Ashutosh Mishra, senior journalist, joining us from the national capital. Opening up the debate tonight are Charu Pragya and Zeba Yasmin. Let's look at the politics behind it. Charu Pragya, let's be very honest. The opposition party is saying that there is a pattern. Whenever there is a media house that is criticizing you, you send the income tax department, you send the enforcement directorate, you send the Central Bureau of Investigation. There is a pattern to the action that is taken by our investigative agencies. That's the direct allegation that you are facing at this point in time. And this at a time when you proudly say that we are the mother of all democracy, freedom of expression should not be muzzled. But you are facing a very grave allegation. How do you respond to the allegations leveled by the opposition? And then we'll take some details of the investigation, and then we'll get into the truth behind the action that has been taken by the Income Tax Department. Opening remarks by Charu Pragya.
Shravan, good evening. And I'm glad you have got this up, because when we are talking about tax diversions, when we are talking about non-compliance with international tax norms, when we are talking about some foreign company which is operating also out of India, siphoning off funds which need to come to the Indian exchequer elsewhere, it has to be taken seriously. And if any political party wants to put their own petty interest above that of national interest, I say shame on them. This is not the first time BBC has been in trouble because of diversion of profits like this. Several notices have been sent to them over the last couple of years. They have not bothered to respond. Today, this is not a raid. This is something which is called as a survey by the tax department, and they are supposed to furnish papers. Now, I don't know why 2 + 2 must always be made into some 40, 50, 60, even 100 in the case of our opposition in this country. It is shameful. Instead of thinking about how BBC has gone wrong at every single count, and yet they are allowed to be here in the name of freedom of speech and expression. Yet they are allowed to be here in the name of press freedom. The very same press freedom, I might remind you, which was curtailed during the UPA regime repeatedly. This very same BBC was expelled from our country by former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ji. At that point of time, they didn't want to mention any of this. Let me also remind them, here we are asking them to furnish details in a very proper, official manner, and they are bound to do so. 70,000 crore rupees. 70,000 crore rupees is the profits they have clocked in this country. Why should we not ask if it is being diverted elsewhere? And why must politics come into this, please? As for that documentary, because you mentioned it, I want to talk about it for 10 more seconds, Shravan. The Prime Minister of UK himself has rubbished it. They don't stand by it. So why is the Indian opposition dancing itself and thinking that talking about that useless documentary today is going to get them any brownie points?
Well, in fact, Charu Pragya, since you make a mention of the documentary, it's hugely problematic. And I would like to dissect that with pure facts, not rhetoric. I'll do that at the later part of the show, but let me just quickly go across to Yasmin. Yasmin, you saw when we opened this debate, I always believe let's put out the facts on the table. Charu has elaborated that. Let me just take one step ahead, because I've spoken to my sources within the Income Tax Department, and this is what they say, Yasmin. Just for your clarity, if you want to basically connect it, it's your choice. You're free to do so. But think logically, Yasmin. Notices were actually issued sometime back in December. While the Income Tax Department is a little tight-lipped, was it actually done even before that? And as per the Income Tax Department's charter, these notices are sent because they are only looking at the book of accounts, whether they have been cleared or not. International Taxation Wing looks into these matters, and especially when their parent company is abroad and their subsidiaries that are operating in this country, the income tax department has a job to do. And if the notices were sent much before the so-called documentary that was basically put out, then how are you exactly equating it? And why shouldn't you talk about the pride of this country? And why should you really fall for what has always been established? Not just our country, Yasmin. Several other countries, I'll name it out for you, why they find the reportage of BBC highly problematic. Because there is a propaganda attached to it. In fact, I will quote the Committee of Privileges in the United Kingdom. They themselves have raised that concern. Their own country has raised that concern. But here we see, Yasmin, an attempt being made by the opposition to go all out and protect what has been the forefront of Western propaganda, Yasmin.
I don't think opposition is against conducting any raids. IT department is doing their job, but what we are putting up the point is that we shouldn't be biased. Why only people who are criticizing government, why the raids are conducted at their places only? Long back, if we see, News Laundry was under the scanner, and then Alt News, which was putting up the facts, then the co-founder was arrested. We are not against any rules, we are not against this, but yes, this selective raids, these are really shame on the democracy, shame on the freedom of speech. Anybody who's criticizing government is all of a sudden being conducted raids and all. So we are not saying that IT department shouldn't work, but yes, my dear friend Charu said that 70,000 crores and all. Why are you not talking about Adani? When Prime Minister spoke for a long time in Parliament, why did he not speak about Adani? Is Adani or not a current topic to speak up? And there were many, several Modi who ran away after a scam in India. I mean, is that a matter of pride? Is that a matter of pride? So where were BJP that time? Where is BJP in Adani's case? So we are not saying that IT department shouldn't work like this. You should, but please don't go for selective raids.
So let's tackle. Okay, Yasmin, you made your opening remarks. Charu, I'll give you the chance to respond, but let me also bring in our other panelists and then you can come back. Manish Bariyar, Yasmin makes a point that there is some selective targeting. And this is a question I had asked Charu also, but I want to take this with you. If you really look at what Yasmin is saying that everything to do with the opposition has always seen some sort of an action coming in from the Central Bureau of Investigation, from the Enforcement Directorate, from the Income Tax Department. The opposition has time and again criticized the government, saying that is there no leader in the BJP, or for that matter anyone who has perhaps have been involved in scams. They've named them. They're saying that scams have actually taken as far as BJP is also concerned, but the Income Tax Department, CBI, ED, none of them seem to be very interested when it comes to the ruling party, is what the opposition says. How do you look at that?
So good evening, Charu, and good evening to my co-panelists and viewers. I think the first thing you have to look at is that why give a chance? The opposition has been giving chance to the government to really go after them, whether it is corruption cases or high-profile wrongdoings. So I would not agree with this view of Jasmine ji that they are going after, because if you give a chance, then only somebody can really go after you. As far as BBC is concerned, BBC is a known offender, right? They look at India. BBC has always looked at India through its prism of colonial imperialism, and they have still not been able to get over the fact that we are now the 5th largest economy, and we are growing, and we are doing better than UK in many respects. So they look down at us. I had experiences of staying there and interacting with some of the people out there in UK, and somehow BBC has never been able to come out of that bias. So it is not a holy cow. If in our country, if it breaks the law of the land, it has to face the consequences. And like any other organization. Now, it's a very sensitive issue. It's a media house, just the way your media house is there. So we all understand that media houses do have certain leanings. And in this case, what we have noticed that within the country, they have a right leaning, but the moment they go out of the country, they have a left leaning. And that goes to explain many of the things which BBC does. And I don't think now in this present era, a lot of people take it as seriously as or as they don't give that much of importance the way earlier, because India didn't have any vibrant media, that kind of it was only official media which was there earlier. So BBC was credible. But once Indian media has become strong, vibrant, and very open, with social media being there, I think international agencies like BBC has lost significance for our country. So I feel that the raid or whatever that survey is very well deserved if they are breaking laws. Okay. And transfer pricing is something which, this is not the only one company. There are several companies, foreign entities. They have face the heat on transfer pricing, and viewers who do not understand transfer pricing, just for 5 seconds I would explain. If there are two entities which are sister companies or they are closely, you cannot save taxes by showing that they are one. So in short, that is what the transfer pricing rules are. It is much more complex than that. Having said that, I would disagree with Jasmine ji again, that I do not think that ED and CBI, they're all doing their roles. It's just that they're facing heat for right reasons. Yes, some of the most high-profile cases has come from the opposition side. Therefore, it is more in media. Top-level corruption from 2014 to 2023, she has to tell us that what kind of corruption cases has come within this government that she really thinks that ED or CBI or someone has to really come up with that. This Adani issue, I'm sorry, just 5 seconds more. This Adani issue is also not a corruption issue. It is a failure of a company in certain way, which SEBI as well as RBI is into it. And I don't think that government needs to really answer for somebody else's failure. Thank you.
Well, in fact, as far as the Adani matter goes, it's the SEBI, the regulatory body, that needs to do some answering. But having said that, Ashutosh Mishra, let's not forget what the BBC has essentially been doing. As far as the documentary is concerned, they're basically casting aspersions on the integrity of the apex court. The matter was closed. And the fact of the matter is that they will not tell the viewers that it is the same very case in which 4,247 cases were filed. There were 26,974 arrests that were made, 15,369 shells of tear gas that were lobbed for mob control. There was 5,450 rounds of firing by the police in the first 72 hours, which accounted for the death of 101 rioters. These figures were not even there in the documentary. So if you really were actually interested in doing a documentary that showed the truth, then why will you not tell? Why will you not tell the viewers that this is also what has happened? You would basically rely on those who have already been discredited in this country, who have already been rejected. You want to once again create that narrative. Why will you create that narrative? I'll do a debate on that at a later stage. But Ashutosh, once again, where lies the problem? The BBC, there is a pattern to it, and not just our own country. There are European countries who have also raised concerns about the reportage of the BBC. But we seem to be suddenly once again back to that colonial hangover that every morning I need to wake up and only listen to the BBC because what they say is the gospel truth.
So, Shravan, first of all, talking about BBC, it was Narendra Modi as the chief minister who thought it was very trustworthy. Now times have changed because it has started criticizing Narendra Modi. And in this particular case, a figure is being spoken of again and again, 70,000 crore profit. That is ridiculous. I mean, you are part of a TV company. TV companies making 70,000 crore profit in India. Hilarious. I mean, then people should take lesson from BBC on how to run profitable TV companies. There are TV companies which have sunk. Yeah, your BJP spokesperson was talking.
Ashutosh, I'm not very sure.
This figure. And companies have sunk. I mean, we have seen Adani buying a company because it couldn't pay a debt, which was much small. So talking about such profits, this is misleading. And why today aspersions are being cast on this government and the act of this government is because we have seen that since 2014, Narendra Modi has been desperately trying to project an image of being someone who wants Sabka Saath, has Sabka Vishwas. But any politician, individual or organization exposing the wicked and bully face of Gujarat model has had to face his wrath. And BBC seems to be the latest victim. If there was nothing in the documentary, then why was it banned? You could have there must have been something which worried Narendra Modi, ban that part. And talking about Supreme Court giving a clean sheet, all the Supreme Court said, the SIT had said, that there is no evidence of direct involvement of Narendra Modi. So she can be prosecuted.
I'm really running short of time.
Nowhere is the clean sheet given of what BBC documentary is saying about
Ashutosh, I'm really running short of time.
About he's not following Raj Dharma as Atal
Can I collectively respond to these allegations?
I'll do a separate debate, Ashutosh. As far as the documentary is concerned, one can punch multiple holes into this entire so-called narrative that has been weaved all this while. But Charu, one last question I want to ask you is that is the government becoming very, very reactive on certain issues? Because when it comes to the BBC matters, wasn't there a better way of handling? Why give them so much importance? You bring down the documentary, ordered YouTube to bring it down. But is the government becoming a little bit more reactive to issues like this, which could have very well been ignored?
So, very quickly, I want to respond to Ashutosh ji, Shravan, and I will come back to your question. When you talk about BBC working well, the countries which have complained and proof has been found in these wrong false stories BBC has been done all over the world. Ethiopia, Jerusalem, UK itself, the polar bear story which was shot in Germany, the USA, India repeatedly. I can list 20 countries here, 20 stories which have proved to be fake. Now moving on to your question, Shravan. See, the fact of the matter is it's very easy to question Prime Minister Modi ji. It's very easy to do that. The opposition tends to come together. वो अलग बात है, even if they are all together, they cannot make a dent in Modi ji's image, but they all tend to come together and they echo and repeat the same thing even if it is wrong. But are they questioning curtailing freedom of speech in a state like West Bengal, for example, or if it happens in the south of India somewhere, or if it happens in Rajasthan, aren't enough journalists suffering, thrown into jail, or simple cartoon is suffering with FIRs against their name and police harassment just because they spoke out against something? And why are you bringing one and one together and trying to make 100 out of it, like I asked in the first place? There are irregularities. If a foreign company wants to function on Indian soil, they have to be answerable to our authorities. It's as simple as that.
Right. Thank you very much, Charu Pragya, Manish Rayar, Zeba Yasmin, Ashutosh Mishra for joining us on The Burning Question. We'll continue focusing on the story that's still developing. The survey action still continues. We give it to understand that perhaps it's going to continue till tomorrow. A story that we'll keep a close watch on. On the other side, the trending burning question with my colleague Deepthi.